The great spiritual energy of orbs, petroglyphs, geoglyphs, the creation of all things. This talk is going to probably confuse many, but it has to be given. It's based on the research data, so I'm going to recover some of the things that I did yesterday. Introduction, understanding gained through the study of data, petroglyphs of the Bronze Age and throughout history, geoglyphs. The difference between a petroglyph and a geoglyph is they are both drawings. The petroglyph is rock art, and a geoglyph are drawings on the land, such as the Nazca lines and other predictions that we made from the study data. So the understanding gained through the data, and we can talk until people are confused about what we found, so it's not really worth explaining other than the fact is that these are collations. Some of them are sequenced, some of them are energy to plants and webs. But people generally are going to take a number of years to understand that these are not, as they're commonly portrayed today, aliens and spaceships. We suggest this, but we don't know that we're right on that. Energy forming from a point. The mathematics of string theory are the cartoon type images and the other images in this 6-image collage are outwards from our data sets. The closed string bar, the open string bar. So string theory now, to us, is a fractal of nature, and certain things science have to really let go of certain things, and many of those are based on gravity forming planets and various other things. So that is the understanding that we gained at that point when we wrote the book, but that's back in 2006 now. So it's moved on. We wrote the book, and if anybody wants to contact me, they can have a free PDF of it. So I'm not really interested in selling it or writing another book or anything. So the predictions that we made. If we got a new scientific theory, you need some predictions that come true, and they are coming true. Although what you will be given is rubbish to reinforce the already rubbish that is taught, even though it's empirical. It's empirical within. Who's paying the ferryman, I suppose. The funders of it. It's a very difficult thing. But everything is taken over by the money. And money has no relevance to this. What nature does. So, we'll look at petroglyphs first. This was taken from a number of years ago, from probably 2007. I think it's Mistral painting the rock art. There's a letter to him about the image. I was asking about the ring rims and the various other V-shaped cutouts, and why they're bound in threes, but obviously he hadn't done any. I've offered him data, all the data that I have, I will offer him that, but he's not interested. But eventually we will start to see this again, as the dog did, as the cryptochromes in the eye allow us, as the magnetic field increases, we will start to see these things. What we have is a hook web orb, again, hand painted, prehistoric, the age that I was given from the letter was about 4,500 years old, before the Common Era, and our ancient ancestors saw this and saw that the gods, their gods, whatever the energy of creation or gods, was disappearing with the reducing magnetic field. So they left messages for us to decode, and obviously the digital camera came along and I decoded it with my team of close friends and colleagues. What we have here is a Bronze Age energy worker, and what I'm going to, with the hook web orb, what I'm going to just pause a little bit to talk about a Buddhist philosophy, which is when these things are pointed out, it's like a finger pointing at the moon. And the Buddhists say when you look at the finger, you cannot see the moon. So you're looking at the personality giving the talk rather than what is being talked about. So what we have here is, this is decade, maybe nearly 1.5 decades at least, I would have thought, of John as a young man. He's now got a baby, and he was a young teenager at the time, and the orb attached to the back of his hand. I don't know whether you can see the strands, but the picture's slightly blurred. We've got numbers of these where the energy attached to the hand. Any healer will tell you about it, but he will not have the images of it because he hasn't done the research into the orb bar wave. Some of them people will be ego driven, and therefore they won't be able to achieve the energy. So in the petroglyphs, this is a fiberglass casting of a Northampton rock art, and under the microscope, and the orb bar wave, feed into plants, and I think one of them is on the tree, hook web orb and orb and bars. So this is the energy of creation. People in Hollywood also probably know this, or it's strange how Keanu Reeves is holding his hand to Life Force. And we have some rock art, again hand painted, again from the Scandinavian Rock Art Society. And they knew that energy was attracted to the hand, and that is how it works. You have carvings of the Buddha with his hand out, Ganesh with a Hindu concept, Christ holding a sphere, the Egyptian tombs holding energy to each other, a cartoon character I put in of a Chi Master, and in fact, we've been told this time and time again, we know, but because of the timing, the processional timing of the low magnetic field, we've forgotten it. But our ancient ancestors warned us of this time. We have further rock art and the cutouts and rings, and which show similarity to our research data. So we looked at geoglyphs. Now this was sent in to me by someone on Facebook. I think it was, they asked me to write further books, but, I'm not really interested. I know how this thing works, and I know, it's coming down the line. And if you go to Saudi Arabia, there's a thing called a geoglyph, which is the Nazca lines. And I think 161 meters long, these geoglyphs. They're in their thousands. And if you go to Al Hayat, which is in Saudi Arabia, as I said, and you can scroll north and south, and you think, well, what are these people drawing? On the Earth's surface. It's just to warn us of what is happening. We have an orb with a bar, and that drawn into the geoglyph. OPEC are even using their the E represents the data that we hold, and the geoglyphs, and in looking at the geoglyphs we began to understand and see other things in our data, such as the dots circled in the lower images of the collage. But even OPEC are using the Orb-Bar wave as a logo. Whether they know about it, I don't know. You'd have to ask them, really. So how the orb is created out of suns, stars, magnetic fields crossing, and these, I think they were taken on before the Boxing Day tsunami. Sometimes it will go offline because they don't want you to see it. These are taken from the Helio Viewer, and you can go on the website and have a look what's happening with our sun. But for the moment, they'll take it offline if there's things that they don't want you to see. So you can think of that what you want. So orbs with dots in. We have another image of a geoglyph on the Earth. 27, 12, 58, 74 North Inns. 37, 21, 21, 73 East Inns. But there are so many of them that, and it's an orb with a hole in it. And I'm not sure I understand it as fully as I can. For now, that's all I can say. So you have the keyhole orb, and again the rock art orb, or the keyhole orb, and if you look at centrally now, you've got the rock art, which is drawn as a geoglyph on Google Earth. I can't see the reference for that. You've got Northumberland rock art with the keyhole orb, and you have my image data in the photographs. You can see the difference between the photographs of rock art. So in my data set, so you know that this is a physical energy. For us to think that it only occurred in ancient times, we don't, if it's the energy of creation, we'd expect to find it in certain things. So we had a look at historic documents, modern, but modern to us, I suppose. rather than thousands of years old. And we came across the Hans Glazier woodcut. We purchased it from the Wicane collection. What you'll get now is you'll get the rip taken out of it, and the dots in the middle of the orbs taken out of it, and cleaned image and whatever. But this was purchased before the proper digitization and image manipulation. We had it translated. What we saw is the orbs falling out of the tube and falling probably on a building, steam and explosions occurring through the translation that occurred. So this is 15th century, as I say, and this is 4,500 years plus whatever, prehistory anyway. You know, it's very difficult to date how when it was cut. And what you have is the if you have a look at the cross or the jack, we used to play jacks as kids and throw balls up and catch the jack. Well, you've got the cruciform jack, and you know, that's what Hans Glazier saw. Now you could say, well, he saw this rock art and copied it and whatever. You know, you start to enter into an area of fanciful thinking. Even though this will be taken as fanciful thinking, it is not. What we have here is a balloon. What we're going to do is pass the balloon over. You know, the balloon represents an orb or a bar. When it's charged, it will pick up powder or whatever, you know, washing machine powder or flour or whatever, and stick to the orb, and it causes the orb then to fall from the sky. Or if it's hydrogen it's picking up, it causes fireballs in the sky, and if it's a bar, it will cause the things like the Tunguska event to occur. So what I'll do now is just show that video. It's been up on YouTube, not really very well received. People don't understand it, but they haven't done the research. So you rub the balloon on your head, which is an orb. It gains charge. It fizzes as well. So people who have been alien abducted will hear that fizz, or electronic phase or whatever, but it's static charge. And I'm not sure about the alien thing myself, but you know, I'll leave that as an open. So you have the fireballs. We've seen those in Russia, and they've a million hits. It's probably more now. You know, probably increasing, because that's one of the predictions. As we release more methane, more orbs will explode. So as the tundra releases methane, it'll explode, and you'll get more events like you know, the Tunguska event. Now, one of the villagers saw a hollow tube above their head, and you can go to Wikipedia and have a look at that and see that. So we had a look at the historical documents. I'm probably not going to explain it other than now the orb is falling from the sky during its solar minimums. This is a cross section of fused silicate. I purchased the samples and had Norman to prepare the sample for me in the university. So there's loose dust in the core. I gave it to our head geologist at the time, who's now long retired now, and I made a prediction, and that prediction was true, which is the cross section of fused silicate is going to be like a fugolite. So what is happening is there are two charges to the orb. and positive lightning is striking and causing these things to fall down. Now these are seen in the Wonderstone mines, the Klukstone spheres, and we got the parallel lines running around the outside of the orb. In 1921 they fell for 4 months and they were steady, but Professor Studley couldn't come up with anything. This is in 21 at the end of the Lassen Peak explosions, and that gives it away. But I'm not going to, if people want to engage with me, they can write to me. But the universe does not work the way that it's the theoretical models say. The hollow spheres, you know, because they're only taking the one charge, and they've been struck by positive lightning, whether in the sea or under the ground, or it fusing the orb which is present everywhere. It's interesting that the Seraphim, which is the fiery serpent, which is middle central black and white image, it's a 1465 painting of a burning bar in the sky. Now these, if material is in the atmosphere, it will stick to the bar and fall from the sky, and it will stick into planets, and we see those on planets, and we got orbs and falling from the sky, as they did in the woodcut, as the Frenchman walking across the field, you know, picked it up, here the third picked it up, and it was a cannonball orb. All he's got is a fused orb. But it becomes simple when you make these predictions. That was 2009. But many of the other things are thousands of years old. You know, this is a Flemish painting from 1710. You know, beams of light, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 beams of light. We got that in our image data. But people are going to take time to catch up. The almanac of the infamous, incredible, and ignored. Well, science ignores these things at its peril because it's not really going to know what's going on. But anyone who buys that book, you see, science has proved aerodynamically a bumblebee cannot fly. You know, birds can't make the migration because they haven't taken enough calories in. But we know bumblebees can fly, and we know migratory birds can migrate. And yet we can create all the proof we want to, but it's not relevant. You know, it's just not relevant. And what we're steered towards is a thinking of what our elite masters want us to think. Nature will do what it wants to do, and nature, you know, I haven't discovered the Orbar wave. I've rediscovered, but it's coming anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So in these historical documents, we looked at space to see whether what we were finding is that by substations and whatever, it seems the energy seems to slow down. What we noticed is that the energy seemed to slow down in magnetic fields. So we made a prediction that closer to the Van Allen belts, or the magnetic fields of the Earth,
I asked him, what are you going to do with this piece of information?
we would see orbs.
He always
And we did, you know, it's like, well, how much evidence do you need? You know, but you have to tear down the Big Bang and many other things of gravity and whatever.
Whether or not there were living critters out there somewhere.
So this is taken from me. It's not mine, it's a YouTube video. You know, it's of NASA. What I put together is a print screen of Scott Carpenter's Mercury 7 astronaut and the orbs on Pontypridd Common. You know, attached to plants, you know. You have to understand that these things will take time to understand. You know, the one in space was allegedly 3 to 4 miles wide. I understand that obviously planets then forming, you know, moons particularly, you know, out of the dust from the primary source, whether it's Jupiter or Saturn, or doesn't really matter which one it is. And, you know, they have these rims on them. Mimas has a so-called impact crater, which is hexagonal, octagonal. It doesn't really matter how many sides it has. It refers to the orb wave, the 3 parallel ridges, you know, and the 3 parallel ridges in the research data, the Clerk spheres. I got a sphere purchased myself with the 3 rings on it. And what we you know, so the formulation of planets is now different to how we are taught or indoctrinated with. So we have to start looking at things properly. And the trouble is that we're going to struggle because we think these things that actually are rooted in the book. What gets us into trouble is not what we know, is what we know for sure. And this was taken from Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth, which is an inconvenient lie. What gets us into trouble is not what we know for sure, it's what we know for sure that just is not so. And so many things over years and years and years we have been indoctrinated with. So even as I talk this talk, I think, well, you know, how have people been able to mislead people into this hole? You know, there's a sample of what I've cut down. What I got cut down, Norman cut it down for me. I scraped out the Utah dust. I made a prediction. I gave it to a head geologist. And, you know, so why we can't see it, I don't know. You know, I was thrown off a website, an astronomy website, but they don't know how the Mars crater was, the Gopal crater in Mars was formed, but I do. It's a fused orb. That's all. Fused bars, Mars bar, you know, which is really funny, but the image comes from the Telegraph and the other images are mine. Rollright stones, blah 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 blah. The rainbow serpent. You know, our ancient ancestors knew these, but we're not going to know them because what we've been indoctrinated with. Supposed science, they're Hubble images and my image. Well, which are the Hubble images and which are my images? And, you know, why is there angles on the ends? And, you know, blah, 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 blah. You know, you can just take it and it's coming to us. we had a look at the energy of creation. So just quick, I'll play this video. It's just about cell division, and what you'll see is in the blood. Now, our ancient ancestors, ancient language of the soul, this nadis was in the blood, and this energy was in bloodstreams. So the ethers and the Great Spirit and the spiritual energy was seen in the creative force. We got it attached to plants. Under a microscope, they shot a web orb. Which is funny. It's so funny that we got so much so wrong. The science world, after the decade of working in the earth science section, you realise how wrong we've got things. How we do not understand what our ancient ancestors understood. The second image along is taken from my datasets. It's like, oh, hang on a moment, we got such a similarity that we got so much wrong. And it's amazing how the science world has not really paid any attention other than spouting off what it's been taught. Here's another image. Now, the one image is from Hubble, or proves gravitational lensing, but then, is it just an orb in space? We have a look at the one image, we have a look at the inset image, we have a look at the microscopic image, as above, so below, as, the whole thing is made up of a life force image, a life force energy. So, I'm going to end with a conclusion, because a lot of people are going to go, well, we can't see this, we don't understand it, but I ask you, how many have got TV? How many have got a mobile phone? How many have got wireless networks and mobile phones, whatever? What smart meters, control things. Now, these are wave functions. And these are physical wave functions, but are not seen. So, if you imagine that the all-bar wave is not seen, it's only occasionally recorded when the magnetic field bursts. That is why, many people don't believe in it. And they choose to believe Isaac Newton. But Isaac Newton actually was an occultist. This is taken from Wikipedia. So how can we get a person who believed in the spirit world of unseen stuff to create the gravity? And even gravity is not even explained properly. I put some experiments of reversing neodymium magnets on the internet, and nobody is interested. But it alters the rate of the fall, of the descent of the magnets. Einstein plagiarized people, apparently, according to the... And, Einstein has a number of things going for him. Generally, it's his quotes. So we've theoretical, hypothetical, non-observable Big Bang. That is what you believe in. Because you're taught it in school, and school cannot be wrong. So I just quickly, the changes to mankind when the rotation of the earth increases the magnetic field. So I've just given this illustration. If you pulse low-level magnetic fields into the brain, you will change the way that it sees things. And so they're like, we will change ages along with the magnetics of the earth. And once again, we will see the Orr-Bar wave. What allows us to see that is the cryptochromes in the eye, and obviously the change in the magnetic field. And that just becomes so simple to me. There's some tests they've done with fiddler crabs, the regeneration of limbs in magnetic fields, and they've increased them. But of course, the medical profession are going to have a mechanistic view of it. And so these magnetic fields that link everything to everywhere is like the mythology of Spider Grandmother. As more and more orbs are attracted to the poles, give up their energy and separate their energy and share their energy with the Earth planet, it will increase the spin, increase the magnetic field of the Earth, and we will once again change age from the Kali Yuga, which is the Yuga of murder, death, kill, and it started in 3002 or whatever, 3014, or the gods disappeared, which were the orbs, disappeared at the start of the Kali Yuga, and our magnetic field depleted. And that's just as simple as it is. When the Earth's rotation increases again, so these 4 yugas that they talk of iron, gold, bronze, whatever, it doesn't really matter what they're talking of. They're talking of probably returning in the Sati Yuga, or the Golden Age. We have a white sun at the moment, and it's changed from yellow, and you can now look at it and various other things. So I'd like to thank everyone for the tolerance, the 3 people that will get to watch it. But when you look at a topic like orbs, you can describe all fish as a lungfish, and yet we know that all fish are not like a lungfish. We have many different species. We can describe all fish as flying fish. But so the majority of people say, well, all orbs are just dust in front of a lens. Well, we proved that with our previous talk. We've done the research. Or it's souls of the dead. Or it's my energy. But at the end of it, it's an all-pervading energy. So I'll leave you with the 6th century BCE translation of Lao Tzu from Tao Te Ching. And it's when people think they know the answers, people are difficult to guide. When they know they don't know, people can find their own way. So I suggest to people who are interested and people who can help other people, get your mirrors out, wait until there's fine rain, take some photographs and have a look for yourself to see whether they're just in front of the lens. Hopefully this talk will have proved to you once and for all, orbs, bars and waves exist. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.